You're in Braves country.
Good morning, Braves country. Let's get it. As we are sitting here on a Monday. Once again, let's go ahead and restart this thing so it goes a little cleaner here. Here we go.
You're in Braves country.
Good morning, Braves country. As we are, hey, underwater, see what we got here. Good morning to you, those watching in the chat, those listening along on 99.1 FM, WQEE. You can find us on Braves Country Radio on YouTube. This is underwater, finished 94th of 1,500, top 100, top finisher from his hometown of Bristol, Connecticut, and did his marathon. The Hartford Marathon is the one we're talking about. 3 hours and 7 minutes under the 3:10 to qualify for the Boston Marathon. We love hearing that. Congratulations, underwater. As that is impressive. That is impressive. I knew it was coming up. I couldn't remember if it was this coming weekend or the past weekend, but evidently it's already happened. So congratulations to you, underwater. And you did a hell of a lot better than the Braves did, right? Anyways, we head into the off season. And before we did that, I just wanted to put a lid on the 2023 season. We're going to be here every Monday morning, 11 a.m. And then you can expect a lot of other content to drop throughout the week. We are going to do the American League Championship Series starting tonight. I know we missed game one, but at the time we made some plans on Sunday evening, and that was with the impression we were going to do the National League Championship Series. Basically, what it came down to is there's a lot more interest in Houston, Texas than there is Arizona, Philadelphia. So we're going with the AL. Plus, we try to keep it in the South on Braves country. And the battle for Texas, heck of a game last night, by the way. Can't wait to cover that series. Jordan Montgomery. Wow. But this is about the Braves. This is about the Braves 2023 season. And what happened? What went wrong? What can we do to improve it? If you look at your Atlanta Braves, you look at the way things finished, and everyone's going to focus on that series. And yes, we already went over the series. So if you do want to hear the thoughts on the series, it dropped Saturday around noon. And it's right here on this channel, Braves Country Radio. We're not going to rehash that series. We've already spent an entire episode on it, and I just feel like you're just beating a dead horse about some of the mistakes that were made in that series, some that some of us are never going to get over. I don't think that one's going to not sting for a long time. Just the way the season ended. Not that they lost to the Phillies, just the way the season ended. The way that the team, and we talked about this all year long, and it's really got to change the philosophy of Anthopoulos and the Atlanta Braves. Anthopoulos did his Zoom meeting, whatever it was that I caught, where he was explaining away the losses, and basically said that he just felt like we didn't get timely hits. Here's the thing. the timely hits the Braves got in the World Series run in 2021, those were uncanny and those were unexpected. You can't build a team off of that. You just can't. You can't build a championship team off of that. And I get that he's not up there making the hits. He's not up there working the counts. I get all that. But when you build a team strictly off of offense, which is essentially what he did down the stretch, you're going to run into problems in the playoffs every single time, because pitching has and always will win championships in Major League Baseball. This isn't college baseball where the aluminum bat comes into play, or it used to. More and more college baseball is now won off of pitching because of the velocity and whatnot, and they have restricted their bats. But there was a time in Major League Baseball, in college baseball, where you could, in theory, go out there and win off of offense. That time is kind of long gone, but Major League Baseball has never been that way. The elite teams that win the World Series always get great pitching. Even the Braves in their banged up 2021 season, they were a little fortunate in a couple of series that things didn't go the other way, but all in all, the Braves got very good pitching. Now, the bats were much better in those seasons, and I'm not going to dispute that one bit. But to build your team and think you're going to win off of offense, it's never going to happen. Not in Major League Baseball. And so what happened to the Braves? Where did things go wrong? Was this season a bust, or did you just fall short in what people are now a lot of your Brave contenders are they're basically trying to refer to this as a tournament. Did they just play flat in a tournament, but the season was a success? I would argue it's a little bit of both. First of all, it's not a tournament. It's October. Don't diminish what October baseball is. October baseball has always been about stepping up to the plate since the days of, and long before this, but since the days of Mr. October and Reggie Jackson. It's always been about coming up in the big moment. It's been about, in 2021, when the Braves won it, not only did we get the big home run by Freddie Freeman against Milwaukee, not only did we get some huge home runs by Jock Peterson, Eddie Rosario, and of course, you can't forget Jorge Soler and the World Series MVP that he had. Not only did you get that, but the other thing would be is this. We got incredible pitching performances. Max Fried had the game 6 of his life. Ian Anderson was unbelievable. Charlie Morton, before he broke his leg, was unreal. The bullpen was unhittable the entire month of October. So I'm not going to diminish, and I really dislike the way a lot of the Braves channels, a lot of the Braves writers, and a lot of the Braves media content specialists, I don't know what you want to call them, are trying to diminish the loss, because I think they're trying to put a rosy glow on it because they don't want you to not become a Braves fan, not be a Braves fan anymore. I don't think Braves fans are built that way. At least I know the ones not on this channel. I've said this for the longest time, and I'm going to say it again. I believe the Braves Country Radio has the most intelligent Braves fans in the entire Braves community, because they come to the channel to listen to a game the way it was intended years and years ago, pitch by pitch, play by play, right? So on other channels, that it might just be a talk show that they do. It might just be like a fan watching channel, the watch alongs, party watching party, whatever you want to call them. Those fans that tend to get attracted to those channels aren't necessarily students of the game. They're not fans of the game, and they're not diehards. They don't consume every single game. They'll go in there, and when the going's good, they're there. When the going's tough, you can't find them. I will say this, even for the ones that complain a lot on our feed, and it is hard for me not to laugh sometimes when some of the stuff that comes out and they're just ranting and venting, I guess would be the best word for it. It still comes from someone who's consuming the game. So I'm not going to sit there and play it down and say that we just lost the first round of a tournament. No. It was the way you built the team. And the way you built the team, remember, we were very passive at the trading deadline. The only moves of actual, even noteworthy, and you could make an argument none of them are noteworthy, but the only moves that we made that improved our team to a degree was the Pierce Johnson, Nicky Lopez, and Brad Hand, and I would say it's in that order. The rest of the stuff that the Braves went through throughout the season, the guys that came in and out, it was predominantly built in the offseason, and that's what we're heading into. And you can pretty much bet that because of that, your Atlanta Braves, I'm just going off of recent memory and recent looking at when the Braves made moves. I don't think you're going to get a very aggressive Alex Anthopoulos at the trading deadline on most years. I think we're just going to have to live with that, and it is what it is. And I'm not 100% sure that that's actually a bad thing. He believes that his team is good enough going into the season most years that he doesn't have to throw a dart at the wall and hope that something comes through. Now, one thing that I would like to say is this. One of the biggest things that we have gotten pushback in Braves country all around, it doesn't matter if you go to Facebook, Twitter, whatever. The constant theme from these writers, because I don't know who started it, but I know the 3 or 4 main guys that I follow have all regurgitated it. So someone said it and the other one ran with it, or the others ran with it. They kept bringing up that Braves fans wanted Atlanta to make a move at the deadline, and look how that worked out for the Dodgers. Look how it worked out for the Dodgers. Well, they went out there and they grabbed Lance Lynn. Is that what you wanted? Is that what you wanted, was a Lance Lynn? And there were a couple of other examples that they used, but the Lance Lynn is the one that I remember the most, them pounding the table about. And they cherry-picked the guys that didn't come through. But at no point were any of those guys considered top tier. Lance Lynn was never considered top tier. He wasn't even the one that the Braves fans wanted on their own team. Atlanta Braves fans wanted Dylan Cease. Now, to get Dylan Cease, you would have to actually go all in. You're going to have to give some big prospects because it's a long-term deal. But they kept trying to point to Lance Lynn. Well, there was no one out there. Really? There was nobody out there? There was no one out there that you could go to help this pitching staff? What about Jordan Montgomery, who went out there last night against the Houston Astros and pitched 6 1/3 shutout ball, 6 strikeouts, 5 hits allowed, and he did it on the road? What about that guy? And he wasn't a flash in the pan. He had a 3.2 ERA throughout the year. Much different than the Lance Lynn they keep bringing up, whose ERA in 2023 was north of 6. And that wasn't the outlier for Jordan Montgomery. He has been phenomenal all year long, even before he got traded. He got traded right before the trading deadline. His last start was against the Cubs. Last couple starts were against the Cubs. And they were familiar with them. And they've always hit Jordan Montgomery well. Because, first of all, the Cubs hit right-handed, left-hand pitching well. But what about the Jordan Montgomery that prior to those Cubs outings had given up in, 5 consecutive outings? 1 run, 1 run, no runs, 1 run, and 1 run. What about that guy? And I guarantee you what jumped off the mat to the Texas Rangers were. On June 27th, the Houston Astros went up against Jordan Montgomery, and he beat them 4-2, went 6 2/3, 1 earned run, 6 strikeouts. Very, very similar to what he did in game 1 of the ALCS. The only difference is we actually shut him out. So to say that there was nothing out there is disingenuous. Anybody can cherry pick stats and moves and say, well, that didn't work out, did it? See, you don't know it all. Now, maybe you didn't do enough research. Maybe you don't follow the game. I doubt that's true, that you don't follow the game like a lot of us do, meaning all teams, all statistics, all the time. I follow it all. There's no way and so they like to cherry pick those moves and say, well, Lance Lynn got bombed in Atlanta right before the trading deadline. No one wanted Lance Lynn. But these are the moves that everybody was pointing to. And some of the guys that they could have brought in, like a Mitch Keller, like a Dylan Cease, you would have to back the truck up, because you are talking about not just getting a rental. You're talking about getting a younger guy under control with good stuff. I'm not as big a fan of Keller as I am on Dylan Cease, but that also probably means you wouldn't have to give as much up. Now, but the point being, what Braves fans are pointing out more than anything else is, going into the deadline, we were scrambling to find starters throughout the summer. If we weren't, Mike Soroka would not have gotten as many damn opportunities as he did. Oof. And better days have been on that shoulder of Mike Soroka. If things were okay at some point, we would not have been seeing guys like Taylor Hearn coming out of the bullpen. We would not have seen guys like Dylan Dodd and Jared Schuster get start after start after start. And that offense was carrying them throughout the entire regular season. And you can do that in the regular season, because in the regular season, you're not facing every team's best pitcher, because there's 162 games. So you're going to run into some clods. And teams just like the Atlanta Braves are trying to make it through that year. So you're not always going to get everyone's best foot forward. But the offense is always going to be able to carry you to a lot of wins, because you're going to see some bad pitching. But I found an article. I found this pretty interesting, because it was an article by a major outlet that was talking about players that they basically want to see go bye-bye and expect to be bye-bye, and then some that they expected to stay. So I wanted to hit that up, because this begins, first of all, I'm not going to go back on what I said, because if I did it, it's disingenuous. I said this all summer long. This team had a historic offense. This team had the best record in baseball. This team got knocked out in the second round technically last year. This team was going to get a bye in the first round. And I said all summer long, it's World Series or bust. If we do not win at least the NL pennant, it felt like it was going to be a bust. And if you didn't get to the NLCS, it was a disaster. And I'm not going back on that because then that would make me disingenuous like a lot of these other writers and whatnot that are saying, well, look what we did. Look how good of a season we did. And blah, blah, blah. Please like and please click on my content all during the off season. Blah, blah, blah. No! We spit the bit. It's okay to say you failed. You know, the famous story everyone always likes to talk about. Michael Jordan didn't make his JV team. Things turned out okay for Michael Jordan. He got motivated. They need this to be fuel to the fire. This is not to need to be an off season where everyone pats them on the back and tells them everything's okay. Because I felt like that's what they did last off season. Last off season, we ran out of gas. I used the same excuses. We ran out of gas. We chased down the Mets. We had the week off. It was the first time anyone had ever seen these playoffs play out like this. And they were ice cold, and they just played a terrible. First of all, the pitching was absolutely awful in 2022 NLDS. Outside of the Bryce Elder Game 3, the pitching was solid. The pitching was good enough where we should have at least gotten the series back to Atlanta. We should have won at least one of those two games that we lost, not counting Game 3. So it's got to go back to a couple of things. Number one, who do you keep? Who do you kick? And why are we going to build the team a different way? And I really believe one of the things that they have to do, and it's not necessarily when I start saying build the team different, I'm not talking about tearing it down. This is a very talented baseball team, unbelievably talented baseball team. This is a team that isn't playing very well when they go up against Philadelphia. You could say matchups, but if that were truly the case, then what the hell's going on in the regular season where the Braves took 8 of 13? They went 8-5 against Philadelphia. But in the big moments, they're not stepping up. And they got to get some dogs on this team. They got to get, and I don't want to recycle this because everybody always wants to go back to the same players. There was a certain vibe, a certain energy that came into that clubhouse in 2021. The first being Jock Peterson on the trade right after Acuna got injured. Immediately, Anthopoulos went and got Jock. Then he brought in Soler, more of a quiet leader. And of course, who can forget what Duvall and Rosario had a hell of a damn run. So I can't forget any of that. I won't forget any of it. But I will say this. You can't go back to the well. That was just, they caught lightning in a bottle and they rolled with it. I'd like to have something a little more sustainable than just getting hot and getting lucky. That's not going to win you a lot of championships. But they've got to get dogs in that clubhouse. I think they need one for the pitching staff, and they need at least one, if not two, in the dugout, everyday dugout, whether they're coming off the bench or you're talking about a new starting left fielder. I am done with the Eddie Rosario experiment. You can't put him in against lefties. He gives away too many at-bats. He's going to cost you $9 million if you pick up his player option. And at best, it's going to be a platoon role because they're going to figure out something on the right side. But I'm done with him. I'm done with Eddie Rosario. You can't do it anymore. We watched it last year. And of course, they blamed the eye surgery, and I got that, and I gave him the pass. But this year, it's not just that he look. The biggest thing was that I have a problem with Eddie Rosario is this, and this you'll never get me to waver from this. He half-asses a lot of things in the outfield. Balls drop in front of him because he's just kind of jogging in. And maybe some of it is he doesn't feel comfortable enough to attack and make some of those plays. And he's worried about getting burned. But if that's the case, then you don't need him out there anyways because he's a liability. And a ball gets hit down the left field line. When a ball got hit down the left field line, I'm talking about like a blooper. Let's say we have the a shift on. And a blooper gets hit down the left field line. There was a different energy and a different result when Kevin Pillar was in left field and Eddie Rosario was in left field, or we'll say Forrest Wall was in left field, or even when he was healthy, Sam Hilliard was in left field. There was a different energy of get the ball, get it in, let's go, to Eddie Rosario going doom, 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 and he would just get over there. Every once in a while, he would make a decent defensive play. But the energy sucked. And then what I had a bigger problem with that is because you could live with that if it wasn't for the fact he gives at bats away. And for whatever reason, he can't lay off the high fastball. And teams know this, especially ones that see them all the time, like the Philadelphia Phillies. And because they see him all the time, they know how to pitch him. He was worthless in that series. He came in with runners on the corners, 1 out on the last top half inning of the game. The tying run is at first. He represents the winning run, and he flails at the first half strike he sees and pops it up, can of corn into left field. We waited all damn game for that to be his at bat. You got to work the count. You have the disadvantage as it is. It's lefty. But you've got to work the count. He thought he'd ambush one. That's what he thought. And it's a lazy approach because what he's hoping is that he's going to ambush one. It's going to get over the wall and he's going to be Captain Hero again. But it played out the way it would normally play out. You do that 99 times out of 100. That what's happened. He just flailed at the pitch. He popped it up. If you get rid of Rosario, $9 million is saved. Here's some other moves. Because this is going off that article. The article suggested getting rid of Jesse Chavez. I'm not so quick to do that. Jesse Chavez was phenomenal when healthy. I thought he should have been on the playoff roster. I did not buy any of the junk that they tried to tell us about that. That was absolute horse hockey. He came back from the injury. He was healthy. Why? Because they said he didn't like the matchup. Jesse Chavez is one of those dogs you need on the lineup. You need him, even if he's your number 12 guy in the bullpen in that series. You need him because he's a leader. So I am not quick to pass on Jesse Chavez. Now, this is assuming he doesn't expect the moon and stars as far as salary. He's going to be 40 years old, or actually just turned 40 years old. You can't, if someone's going to give him a ridiculous amount of money, then you got to let him walk. And then we'll get him in a trade from the Cubs later in the year. But I'm not so quick to push off on Jesse Chavez. He's also very good friends with Charlie Morton. A lot of that may go hand in hand. Speaking of Charlie Morton, if we don't bring him back, it's $20 million saved. A lot of people think he's overpaid. I am not one of those because if you look at comparatively, Charlie Morton goes out there and eats innings. Charlie Morton, I know he got injured at the very end, and it hurt us. But look how many innings Charlie Morton put out there. Charlie Morton's not the reason why we didn't win the Philly series. Anthopoulos and his front office not being prepared for a possible Charlie Morton injury is why we lost the Philly series. But if Charlie Morton does come back, you're talking about $20 million on a team that doesn't go on spending sprees. There could be a better option out there. I have a very strong feeling Charlie Morton's going to retire. Just the interviews you got from him right at the end of the season, man, he just looked gassed. And he may not make the decision very early. He may say, I'll come back and talk to you in January. Maybe we can talk about a cheaper deal, whatever. But at the $20 million rate, I feel like if they were going to do it, they would have already done it like they did the year before. I feel like it would have already happened. I've got a funny suspicion that Charlie Morton is just tired. Just some of the ways, like you could read the body language, some of the stuff that he said, and it wasn't necessarily what he said, it was how he said it. He made the comments like this was his last rodeo type of thing. So you could save $20 million there. You could save $9 million with Eddie Rosario. Colin McHugh had a 4.3 ERA, is a shadow of his former self, and he has a $6 million option. Hard pass on that one. There's no way you can bring him back. He was awful. And I don't think he's going to retire, but I think someone else is going to pick him up. And look, that he could be someone they get off the scrap heap really cheap and they bring him back because he's great in the clubhouse. But yeah, I'm not bringing him back for 6. There's just no way. Yeah, Underwater says, I don't want to hear a peep about Ohtani. Ohtani's not coming to the Atlanta Braves. Good night, Irene. I was wondering when the first comment would come. And I know you're not, I know Underwater's not suggesting, but he's right. They're going to come out of the woodwork saying that we need to go get Ohtani. First of all, Ohtani can't even pitch until best case scenario 2025. Speaking of that, the Kyle Wright scenario, if you missed that, he's gone till 2025. Best case scenario. He had shoulder surgery. He's done. They've already announced he will not be back. I'm kind of glad they did that because, my God, I hate when they do this thing where they say, well, we hope that he can be back by around August of next year if everything goes right. And then they start the time clock, and then you're paying attention to that crap, and then it's like, enough. With that being said, there's an outside chance that Ian Anderson could be back late next year. Let's go ahead and start it. Let's start the clock. All right. Mike Soroka. That's another one I just don't think you can bring back. And the reason why is, well, I'll tell you what, I'll put a pause on that. I would like to know what his arbitration number would be. They supposedly saved him from having to be on the 40-man, meaning that he did not have to be on the Major League Baseball roster, because of time manipulation, which lends you to think that that's what their plan is. But Soroka got shut down again. Soroka's terrible. Soroka is at this point an innings eater. I said it last summer. I'll say it again. He is not a starter on a World Series contender, period. Not come postseason. Not what we saw. Now, if he gets his velocity back and gets some bite to that slider and not a frisbee, there was no difference. There was no difference between, if you think about this, go back and watch Ohtani. I mean, Otani. I see everyone in the comments was the Otani. I apologize. Go back and watch Mike Soroka and his starts. There was no difference between his frisbee slider and Colin McHugh's frisbee slider. The only difference is that Soroka's a little bigger, and everybody remembers when. He is a very hittable pitcher right now. Now, if you can guarantee me he's getting his velocity back, and he's going to get bite on his slider, and it's not coming in at 82 miles an hour. That's not a slider. That's a flat curve. Those usually find their way into the cheap seats or near the drink, depending on what stadium you're at. So I'll put a pause on it, but I don't believe Soroka would be a great idea. But because they manipulated him, his time, I think they're planning on bringing him back. But I would love to know what his now. He had terrible numbers, so I would think his arbitration number would be fair. But because of his time served, sometimes that gets a little hairy. So I'm on the fence about that one. I'm not a Soroka fan anymore. I was many, many years ago, but I've seen it up close and personal. You can't talk me into him being some great pitcher anymore. He's not going to be that. He's at best going to be a journeyman 4 or 5 starter unless he gets a huge spike in his velocity. And a lot of that came from he changed his delivery, and he changed his delivery because he felt like he needed to prolong his career. Well, you're not going to prolong your career if you have an ERA north of 5, north of 6. I mean, it's not going to be a career in Major League Baseball, not pitching. You might be able to be a bullpen coach, go out there and pitch batting practice to folks. That's all you did this year. Kirby Yates is the interesting one. Kirby Yates, $5.75 million option. And you look at his hard numbers, and they were pretty impressive. His ERA, I believe, was 3.2 ERA. And he had some big moments. He had some lousy moments. But all in all, you can make the argument that Kirby Yates was a pretty solid relief pitcher. And he stayed healthy. But the question is, where you go with these other guys, or you decide to be a little more aggressive in the free agent market, do you want to spend 5.7 on Kirby, or do you want to save it elsewhere? I'm leaning towards keeping him, but that's with the assumption that we're going to make some of these other moves to free up money, like getting rid of Eddie Rosario, like the assumption that Charlie Morton is probably retiring. Colby Allard is another pitcher that will be arbitration eligible. I say let him go. You can't have this many batting practice pitchers on your staff. You just can't. So that brings me to the last guy, and this is one of the more intriguing ones that was on that list that I saw. First of all, Sam Hilliard, they brought him up. I mean, come on. They're not bringing back Sam Hilliard. If they do, it's going to be a much cheaper rate. But you don't really need Sam Hilliard, and Sam Hilliard doesn't really need Atlanta because Sam Hilliard can be filled by the role of Forrest Wall. There's no real reason to have a Sam Hilliard, especially if Brian Snitker's not going to give these guys days off. And you can tell Brian Snitker, he's old school. He does not want to give these guys days off. You know that to be true. I understand it. Why waste a slot on Sam Hilliard when you basically got out of Forrest Wall what you would have gotten out of Sam Hilliard? An outfielder that can come off the bench, play left field, and an elite base runner. I am not against the idea of the last guy, Kevin Pillar. Remember, he made 3 last year. I'm not against the idea of Kevin Pillar and Forrest Wall along maybe with the Vaughn Grissom filling that left field role. The big question is, can Vaughn Grissom play left field? I know it's been talked about, it's been played around with, but you don't really know what their big time game plan is because there's things that go on behind the scenes that we don't see. Things like when they talked about why was Marcell Ozuna playing first base in the practice games during the bye week, and they said it's something that they've talked about doing next year, and they just wanted to fiddle with it this year. So if Vaughn Grissom, they've got to do something with Vaughn Grissom. You either have to let that man sink or swim at shortstop, which I don't love the idea because Arcia, with all his faults, I know he's not the greatest batter in the world. I know he's a very slow runner, though he does hustle. I'm not going to hold what he said against him. What he said is that was held against him by the media and whatnot about the attaboy. That is stuff that goes on in every damn locker room every single night. The difference is you had a snitch that was looking for clicks, and that's all that was. And what the Braves hopefully learned was don't trust them. Don't trust any of them. Don't trust any of them that work for the AJC, MLB, The Athletic, or this clickbait fraud, whatever his name was. That's all they're doing is chasing clout. And you're like, well, how did he end up in the locker room? Because it's pretty damn easy to get credentials nowadays. It really is. I'm friends with a lot of folks on a social media that have credentials to get in to cover baseball games. I could easily get them, but I don't live close enough to the market for it to make sense. So it doesn't take much to get it, because I mean, some of these guys, you're like, how the hell is this guy covering this? And then I looked into it, I go, okay, it's extremely easy. Because some of these guys with the credentials, you're like, you roll your eyes, you go, good Lord. I don't even know if you should be mopping up the men's room in that stadium, much less be sitting where you're at. But the point is, you can get these credentials easily. So they go in there, and all he's looking for, I call him his Jim Rome moment. For younger fans don't know about that, the Jim Rome moment means says something that is underhanded and slimy, but it got his name on the map. And Jim Rome used it as a vessel to catapult his entire career, and he's lived off it his entire life. The whole Chris Everett, Jim Everett thing. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up. But it was underhanded, it was dirty, and that's why I've never liked Jim Rome ever. I'll never sit there and watch him and listen to him because I felt like what he did was, well, for lack of a better term, it was pukey. It was sickening. But they've got to learn, and a lot of teams do this in a lot of different sports. You give your interview, and then what the Braves need to do, number one, more than anything else, the heck with this offseason moves I'm talking about, they need to get a security team in place that the moment the interviews are over, because I did security for a long time, but you get guys a lot bigger than me, a lot more intimidating, an imposing figure. Couple of ex-Falcon players, right? Looking for something to do, make a little extra money. And they usher everybody with a microphone, a phone, or a clipboard, notebook, whatever, and get them the hell out. And then once that happens, the door's locked. They can play whatever the music they want to do. But look, Arcia let his guard down. He let his guard down because, and for them to make a big deal about it and act like that, disingenuous as hell. For Bryce Harper to act like, well, I was going to teach him a lesson. Blah. Shut the hell up. You've said you've said worse. You just haven't had the misfortune of saying it in front of a clickbait champ. But that's it. That's all they got to do is get a security team in place. You have to answer the questions because it's a part of the Major League Baseball contract, etc. But I would suggest that the Braves start not letting anybody in the locker room, period, and have a little area right outside. You got an extra month to build it now. Have a little area right outside, almost like a mini stage, almost like you see them in press conferences, but you wouldn't have to be that extravagant, and just have all the interviews there. None of them inside the locker room, and let's go. And why not? So back to the actual fixing the team. I'll go over it real quick again in case you're just joining us. Charlie Morton would free up 20, assuming he retires, and I think he will. Or if he does come back, he's going to come back at a lesser rate because he may decide to really put it off and then come back to terms. Remember when he first signed with the Braves, it was a 15 deal. Well, he's going to be 40 now, so there could be some conversation there. $9 million, get rid of Eddie Rosario. Bye-bye. Had enough of you. I was at my eyeballs filled with Eddie Rosario by about mid-May this year. I've had enough. Colin McHugh, same deal. You got to get rid of him. You would free up $6 million there. $9 million with Eddie. 20 with Charlie. Another 4-ish with Soroka, but he might come in lower than that. And then a 5.75 you would save with Kirby Yates. Though you could have a conversation there and maybe get him in a little lower. If you get rid of, talked about Colby Allard, Sam Hilliard, you could then free up another about $3 million, somewhere in that neighborhood. I'm bringing back Jesse Chavez. I don't care. He never makes that much, and he's a great team leader. I'm bringing back Kevin Pillar. I liked everything Kevin Pillar did. The only thing that I'm concerned with is Kevin Pillar tired of being a Brave because Kevin Pillar wants to play every day. That's going to be an issue. That's going to be the number one issue. Does he get, because I think he's going to go out there and test the market, and does someone give him an everyday role? If they do, it's going to be hard for the Braves to compete. It won't be the money. It'll be the opportunity to play every day. But if they say, hey, we're getting rid of Eddie, we're going to give you most of the at-bats. From time to time, we're going to give you a day off and let a Forrest Wall come in. Does that entice him to come back? But let's say we lose Kevin Pillar. That would then bring in, if you added all that up, roughly just under $50 million. And we'll talk about what that could bring back in the free agent market going forward. We'll do a lot of, different things in different scenarios. But if you can clear somewhere between 45 to 50 million off the books and just go in a different direction, once again, I want to see him get dogs, just a couple of dogs, 2 or 3 guys that come in with that, we're here, let's get it. And that usually comes from going and grabbing a grizzled veteran that's okay not having the starting role every day, but wants to chase a championship. And there's a lot of options out there. We'll get into them next Monday. But there's a lot of options out there of guys that really just want to chase a ring. And look, the one thing that you know that every single pitcher and hitter knows when they look at the Atlanta Braves as a free agent, they know a few things. A, they know the fans will support them. They know that Truist Park goes bonkers. They know they're going to live in a pretty nice area, much better than other areas of the country. And they also know this team is built to win every single year, which means I'm not going over there just chasing one season. If I sign a 2-3 year deal with all these guys locked up till the end of the decade, we should have a chance, even on bad years. We should fall backwards into a wild card. This isn't some aging team that missed their window. The window is still wide open, but they got to fill the holes on the roster. That I think number one has got to be, without getting into the nuts and bolts of do you get a left-handed starter, reliever, right-hand, all that stuff. It's got to be the personality. I want someone with some oomph in it. I want someone like a Jock Peterson. I want someone like a Jorge Soler, who you can tell they are leaders. I'm not saying those two guys specifically. I'm talking about the energy that was in that locker room. And there was a swagger, there was a brag about it. And as much as we hate, everybody in Braves country worth their salt hates Bryce Harper. But he's got a bravado about him that spills over into the rest of the dugout. And that's what you need. Because we have a lot of quiet leaders on this team. We need some bravado. We have Austin Riley, Matt Olson, Travis d'Arnaud, Michael Harris. Great gentlemen, great salt of the earth people that you would want as your next door neighbor. People you would invite over to the barbecue. But you got to have one or two dogs. Acuna's not there yet. If you missed it, Acuna tucked his tail and ran and hid after the postgame of Game 4 and pulled you talk about cringeworthy moment. They said his comment to the media when they went to ask him about the game was no habla inglés, and walked away. Scurried off and hid on the bus, waiting for his teammates to face the fire. That's not a leader. You need a leader. And I'll tell you something else. Acuna down the road is going to hit free agency. And Acuna down the road is going to want to get elite money. But the team that gives it to him wants to know that Acuna is also, because a part of that making that big time money is standing in front of the media, because it's actually a part of your job. It's in your contracts. And when you pull that junk, he won't get fined for it, but when you pull that junk, everybody remembers it. His bestie, Ozzy Albies, is going to remember. I guarantee you Ozzy Albies tore him a new one. And Ozzy's too classy to say it out front. He'll do it behind closed doors. I don't expect Acuna to do that again, but there's a part of Acuna that's very, very immature. And he's a young kid. And I'm not going to hold it against him for the rest of his career. I won't do it. Because we've all made stupid mistakes at a young age. But that was cringeworthy. And honestly, if you want to put a word on it, it was cowardly. It was a cowardly move. But you've got to go out and get some guys. They're going to, it's not just the face of the media thing. I'm talking about in the clubhouse, in the dugout. When you're trailing 3-1 and Eddie Rosario is going up to bat, you needed a guy that was going to go out there and fight for every single pitch. And you also needed someone standing back in that dugout, because Snicker's way too quiet. The whole 9 yards. About the only ones who, with any bark in their bite, unfortunately, are standing out there on the field. I don't think Washington would have been quiet. EY seems pretty outgoing. He seems like but you need someone in that dugout, and I do believe that they need a change in the coaching staff. You got to add someone who's going to be a rah guy as well. But you got to have someone who's going to remind go, Eddie, wait for yours. Don't give up. Don't give your damn it bat away. Instead, what you hear from Snicker time and time again is, well, I don't really tell these guys anything because they know what they're doing and they've been through it before. Then what the hell is your job? Because you don't make out the lineups anymore. Other than a disastrous job working the pitching staff / bullpenning in this series, what the hell do you do? Because if you're not going to be the leader of men, and I do believe he's a great, elite regular season manager, but you got to have someone in that dugout. Maybe it's someone that wants to take the job when he retires, or maybe it's somebody that wants to use it as a springboard to another job. You got to have someone sitting next to him that has a little more fire. We need like a Leo Mazzoni type in there. We need someone with a little more bulldog in him. You need it on the roster because it can't just all be talk from the managers. And you need it on the coaching staff. They've got to add somebody. I'm not saying they even have to fire anybody, but you got to add someone who is when they walk in the room, you go, I want to hear what this person has to say. And on every given day, every given game, it's not always going to be lighting a fire under your ass. Sometimes it's just going to be making you laugh. But it's going to be someone that is a leader. Don't give me any more of this crap about how we lost a postseason tournament. That's what they're calling it. You lost in October, and October matters. I want to get back to Choptober and not Sobtober. That's all we've done the past 2 years is cry in our beers what could have been. Oh, man, can you imagine? Wouldn't have that been awesome? Oh, woe was me. Got too much talent. You're going to get punched in the nose. You got to come back up swinging. This is the hardest game to win at all. I've said that my entire life. I follow it all. College football, NFL, NBA, you name it. This is the hardest sport to win at all. You've got to have 2 or 3 just bulldogs that are going to go in there and take charge. Don't get me wrong. Don't go out there and just get cheerleaders, right? Don't get guys that stink. But a part of the free agent process, I want to meet them, and I want to know why they want to come play for the Braves. And winning a championship has got to be at the top of their list. Even if they've already won one, it's got to be more important to them. I don't want Erod, Eduardo Rodriguez, as good as he is. He's going to command a high salary, and he didn't want to go play for the Dodgers because he didn't want to move across the country for a couple of months. He wanted to sit there and suck it out with the Tigers the rest of the year. I want someone like a Jordan Montgomery that goes, you're damn right, I'll waive my no trade clause. Let's go. Because he wants to win. All right, y'all have a great day. Thanks for tuning in. Like I said, we'll be here every Monday morning. And obviously, if you have to work, don't worry, you can watch the replay. And we'll do more of these. And we're probably going to do a drop on Friday afternoons. It could be live, but it depends on my work schedule. But we're doing at least 2 of these. The rest of the week is typically going to be football content. But when we come on as Braves Country today, Braves Country Brunch or whatever, it is going to be baseball talk. I'm not going to try to do it all in one. Today, remember, we're carrying the American League Championship Series. See, about 4 o'clock, we'll probably replay the audio of this for folks who might have missed it leading into the pregame of the Astros Rangers. First pitch is 4:37. It's an early start, but we're going to bring it to you pitch by pitch, play by play, the entire ALCS, and then we will bring you the entire World Series. We missed the game last night. Had something to do with not already promised to do something else Sunday because we thought we were going to do the NLCS, whether the Braves were in it or not, but nobody really, I'll be honest, the stations that carry our ball games, they really weren't too thrilled about Arizona versus Pennsylvania. They said, give us the Lone Star State showdown. So that's what we're doing. Look forward to it today. Y'all have a great day, Braves country. Oh, man. I don't know if I'll ever get over this year, though. This ranks up there.
You're in Braves country.
Goodbye, sweetheart, well, it's time to go. We're back tomorrow with another show. Well, unless we're fired, we'll talk to you then. Goodbye, sweetheart, goodbye. Goodbye.
Guys and gals, it's time to go. We'll see you on the next show.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
Thanks for listening to Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks on 99.1 FM WQEE The Key in Noonan, Georgia, and simulcasting on youtube.com/@BravesCountry. Braves Country comes your way weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern. Please follow, like, and subscribe today. Armchair Quarterback Radio, your first choice for Southern sports.
Something of the 5th of September. Something of the 5th of September. She said a lot that I can't remember. Something of the 5th. Can I get another cigarette, please? Can I get another cigarette, please? Yeah, I know I